Have you ever had a chance to visit or perhaps spend the night in a royal palace? People are building big residences with all kinds of conveniences these days, but calling them palaces may not be appropriate. Many royal palaces around the world have weathered the test of time, and their sheer size, extravagance, magnificence, and value render the construction of proper palaces uneconomical and impractical. Before we go over the 10 of the world's most expensive royal palaces, remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Now let's get started. Number 10. Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, Austria. This magnificent palace located in Vienna, Austria is one of the country's most important historical, cultural, and architectural landmarks. A massive mansion known as the Katerberg stood on its site prior to its construction of the palace. In 1569, the Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian II purchased the area and set up animals for hunting as well as rare birds for viewing. People would spend a lot of time in the area because it was known for pleasure and hunting. After her husband Ferdinand II died in 1638, Eleonora Gonzaga obtained the property and erected a castle there between 1638 and 1643. The current architecture, however, is the product of expansions and remodeling completed between 1740 and 1750 during Empress Maria Theresa's reign, when the estate was given to her as a wedding present. The successive Habsburg rulers who lived in this palace had a wide range of preferences, aspirations, and interests. All of this added to the palace's grandeur. Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna is currently valued at approximately $1.04 billion today. Number 9. The Chateau Frontenac Castle in Quebec, Canada. Due to the fact that this is now a big hotel, this is one of the most amazing former royal residences in the world. This magnificent landmark hotel is perched atop a steep cape, making it one of the most stunning elements of the Quebec City skyline, with a spectacular view of the St. Lawrence River and its environs stretching for kilometers. Because of its beauty and rich history, this hotel is arguably the most photographed hotel in the world. Former British colonial governors lived in this magnificent chateau constructed by American architect Bruce Price. The value of Quebec's Chateau Frontenac Castle is estimated to be around $1.6 billion. Number 8. Neuschwanstein Palace in Bavaria, Germany. The view of Neuschwanstein Castle from the vantage point is simply breathtaking. One of the things that makes this castle so wonderful is its history, which is both interesting and a little complicated. Ludwig's father, King Maximilian II of Bavaria, purchased the ruins of the Schwanstein Castle in 1832 and replaced them with Hohenschwangau Castle, a neo-Gothic palace that took only 5 years to complete. The Hinter Hohenschwangau Castle and the Vorder Hohenschwangau Castle, both in ruins, overshadowed the Schwanstein Castle and shared a fortified tower house, a keep, and a hall. Ludwig's first project after ascending to the throne in 1864 was to construct a castle to replace the two ruined ones, which he named the new Hohenschwangau Castle. Rather than using Bavarian public funding, he spent his own money and even borrowed to complete this endeavor. However, following his death, the castle was renamed Neuschwanstein, a name that stuck to this day. The current value of the Neuschwanstein Castle is believed to be $1.8 billion. Number 7. Palacio Real in Madrid, Spain. This majestic palace, located on Calle de Bailen in Madrid, is the official residence of the Spanish royal family and is Europe's largest royal palace. King Felipe VI and his family have chosen to live in the Palacio de la Zarzuela, a smaller palace near Madrid, rather than there. As a result, the palace holds state functions, and a few of its rooms are open to the public unless a state activity is taking place. This palace was built on the site of the Alcazar, a 9th century Muslim fortress. The citadel was inherited by the Moorish Taifa or Toledo in 1036, but his dynasty lost it in 1083 when Alfonso VI of Castile conquered Madrid. Following the fire that destroyed the Alcazar in December 1734, King Philip V began building a new palace to replace it. This palace was built over the course of 17 years, and it first opened its doors in 1755. Charles III, who arrived here in 1764, was the first king to live there, and Alfonso XIII was the last. The Palacio Real is currently valued at about $2.8 billion. Number 6. The Government Palace in Lima, Peru. This lovely palace in Lima, Peru is not one of the largest on the list, but it's one of the few that hasn't been turned into a museum. This is the official residence of Peru's president and the seat of the government's executive branch. This palace was built in 1535 over a large, renowned structure that has housed the old Lima Shrine. The Indian Uprising of 1536 caused a massive army to encircle Lima and turn the palace into a fortress, almost immediately after it was completed. Since its construction, this palace has undergone various alterations, the most recent of which occurred in the 1930s under President Oscar R. Benavides' second term. Because it was the home of the Rimac Valley's monarch from the House of Tolly Chusco and where General José de San Martin declared Peru's independence on July 28, 1821, the palace is extremely important to Peruvians. Lima's government palace is estimated to be valued at more than $3.4 billion. Number 5. Buckingham Palace in London, United Kingdom. Buckingham Palace is the most well-known palace on this list with a value of $5.04 billion. This palace, which is still the administrative headquarters and residence of the United Kingdom's Queen, is located in Westminster, London. The Buckingham House, a massive townhouse erected in 1703 for the Duke of Buckingham, was the original structure that stood where the palace stands now. This structure was purchased for Queen Charlotte by King George III in 1761, earning it the name the Queen's House. Architects added 3 wings to this edifice in the 19th century, and it eventually became the official house of the British monarch in 1837, when Queen Victoria arrived in power. The most recent important constructions took place in the 19th and 20th centuries, with one of the most notable being the replacement of the Palace Chapel with the Queen's Gallery following the World War II bombardment. Buckingham Palace is a lovely venue to visit, with 775 rooms and London's longest private park. Number 4. Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, Russia. The Winter Palace is one of St. Petersburg's most spectacular structures. In the history of the city, this palace has played a vital symbolic, political, and cultural role. From 1732 through 1917, the Russian kings used this palace as their official residence. In 1708, the wooden Dutch-style imperial home was built here for Peter the Great and his family before this magnificent castle was built. In 1711, the wooden house was rebuilt by a stone structure, which would later become the Hermitage Theater's foundation. This palace is currently worth about $6.4 billion and is located between the square and the embankment, providing a secure and tranquil atmosphere for royalty. The current Winter Palace was built around 1730 with a design that changed numerous times until 1837, when it was rebuilt after a major fire. People swarmed into the palace during the Russian Revolt in 1917, and it was the last year it served as the monarch's formal residence. Number 3. Tokyo Imperial Palace in Tokyo, Japan. The Tokyo Imperial Palace Park is a massive green space in the heart of the metropolis that is worth more than $12.25 billion. The castle is surrounded by beautiful shrines, parks, and museums. Since 1868, the Imperial Palace has served as the residence of succeeding emperors. It houses His Majesty the Emperor's imperial residence and the Imperial Palace complex where he performs official tasks. There are also several ceremonies and public events held there. The Imperial Household Agency and the Palace Sericulture Center are other 2 prominent structures in the palace, where succeeding empresses have produced silkworms, following the example set in 1871 by Empress Dowager Shokin, Empress and consort of Emperor Meiji. The Imperial Royal's East Gardens are available to the public and are located on the eastern side of the palace grounds. Number 2. Palace of Versailles in Île-de-France, France. The Palace of Versailles is nothing short of stunning, and this incredible structure boasts of a large size and splendor. Because it was erected in the middle of a small 11th century village, the gorgeous and skillfully preserved surroundings provide a stark contrast to how this region looked during construction and its original completion. In 1623, Louis XIII began construction of this palace, which he intended to use as a hunting lodge. However, in 1682, Louis XIV expanded it and made it the official royal residence, relocating France's seat of political power from Paris to this palace. Between 1661 and 1678, the first extension took place, and between 1678 and 1715, the second enlargement took place, transforming the once hunting lodge into this beautiful castle. The royal family was forced to return to Paris in 1789 due to the French Revolution. This magnificent palace is now valued at over $50 billion, yet its rich history and symbolism of absolute monarchy are priceless. Number 1. The Forbidden City Palace in Beijing, China. China features some of the world's most gorgeous architectural monuments, with the Forbidden City Palace standing out as one of the country's cultural treasures. Between 1420 and 1912, during the reigns of the Ming and Qing dynasties, the city of Beijing, China, served as the imperial residence. For nearly 500 years, this incredible metropolis was home to the Chinese emperors and their families, as well as the Chinese government's political and ceremonial activities. This palace complex is worth approximately $69.66 billion and spans over 180 acres with 980 buildings. The palace complex has a one-of-a-kind design that embodies Chinese palatial architecture, which has had a significant influence on architectural developments in East Asia and other parts of the world. Other palaces may be grander and more beautiful, but they did not make our list of the most expensive palaces for some reason. Which palace do you believe does not belong here, and which palace do you believe is the ideal replacement? Please share your thoughts in the comment box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.